To go now to Cristina Traina, a religious study professor, a religious study professor at Fordham University in New York. Professor, thank you so much for giving us some of your time. Such an historic day there as we take this live look at Vatican City, as still thousands of people there in the square celebrating this momentous day. First of all, just talk to us. What stands out to you most right now? Because there are a lot of firsts happening.
Well, certainly an American Pope was an unexpected first. I don't think he was at the top of anyone's list that I had seen. And I'm also fascinated by his choice of names because it implies continuity with a pope from the 19th century who was a very theologically astute pope, but who was also interested in social justice and social change. And that may be an indication as well. But what's most important to me was his opening statement in which he said tutti, 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 which means all, a countless number of times, echoing Pope Francis, and quite prominently thanked Pope Francis. He talked about dialogue, he talked about encounter, he talked about being hand in hand, united as disciples in Christ, moving forward in a synodal conversation. That's also a key word for Catholics, in a missionary mode. And so he was projecting an image of great continuity with Pope Francis, and yet he's an expert in canon law, and so he will dot all his I's and cross all his T's.
Yeah, and Professor, I'm seeing as our researchers are frantically sending us information here that the new Pope presided over one of the most revolutionary reforms made by Pope Francis when he added 3 women to the voting bloc that decides which bishop nominations to forward to the Pope. And then earlier this year, Pope Francis showed the then, cardinal his esteem by appointing Cardinal Prevost to the most senior rank of cardinals. So what does that tell you, Professor, about the direction that the church may go in? Because, of course, there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of speculation. Pope Francis obviously was a progressive pope. What does this tell you about the direction the church may be going in or continuing in?
I think this is a sign of continuity, at least in terms of Francis's pastoral mission, his welcome to all and his emphasis on everyone's spiritual pathway, unique spiritual pathway. So Francis was a progressive in terms of his pastoral approach, but he was a conservative in his theology. And I am not sure exactly what direction Prevost will lead us in as Pope Leo XIV. But what I can say is that he is wanting to continue Francis's pastoral welcome and message of peace and unity. The other thing to notice is that he's on the younger side for the candidates for Pope, which means occasionally when the cardinals are not sure they want someone to be in place very long, they'll intentionally pick an older person. This is not the case, so it indicates confidence in this pastoral direction.
Yeah, just for our viewers, this Pope was born in 1955. He is 69 years old. Professor, walk us through some of what happens now. So we got our first glimpse. We heard from the new Pope, Pope Leo XIV. What happens now? He walked back into the Vatican.
Well, he is the Pope, but he will be officially installed at a mass in St. Peter's Square in about a week, more or less. We'll have to wait and see what that date will be. So that will be the official ceremonial installation. And as we saw with Benedict and as we saw with Francis, there may be a lot of sartorial signaling. We will have to watch and see what he is going to wear to see which side of the liturgical spectrum and the philosophy he will be on, right? Whether he will be a more monarchical or a more conversational and collegial pope.
And Professor Traina, walk us again through the significance of this name, Leo XIV.
Well, I am not sure. He's going to have to explain it to us. But Leo XIII well, it was a 19th century pope who was convinced that the theology of St. Thomas Aquinas was the best response to socialist and communist trends that were catching the attention of the underpaid, overworked industrial working classes that were beginning to develop. And so it was a very interesting trend of applying a quite ancient, well, not ancient, but medieval theologian to the issues of the modern industrial world. And he was very interested in social justice, very interested in the rights of workers, very interested in a good life for families. And so I am wondering if this might not be what our new Pope is signaling.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.